Welcome to Turn the Page, the official podcast of the Syosset Public Library.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Turn the Page. I'm your host today, Jen, and today I am joined by the creator of an absolutely gorgeous graphic novel. I met this creator at ALA, at American Library Association, and I am so excited to meet again to discuss this work. So welcome. Could I ask you to introduce yourself and your book, please?
Sure. My name is Alex Krokus. I'm a cartoonist who just created the book Talking with My Father's Ghost, which was just put out by Chronicle Books this week.
Nice. Yeah, congratulations on the publication. And I have to say, it is like a really lovely story. It's very funny and, sad in the places where it is needs to be sad. And I'm so excited to talk about it. But before we get to the book itself, could you tell us a little bit about your journey in comics and some of your other works?
Sure. So, like I said, I'm a cartoonist. I work both in comics and animation. And for the last 10 or so years, I worked as a freelance animator in New York City, both in television and advertising. But I always had a passion-driven side hustle of posting webcomics to social media. I would post 4-panel comics under the title Loud and Smart, which was like quasi-autobiographical. Sometimes they would be gag strips. Sometimes they would be autobiographical slices of life where I would draw myself, my friends, and family as animal avatars. And I really grew to become known for those Loud and Smart strips. And after several years of posting online and releasing collections through the publisher Silver Sprocket, I finally wanted to step up to the plate of making a graphic novel, which was something that I kind of always shied away from because it seemed like an intimidating workload, and I was just waiting for the right inspiration to commit myself to a multi-year project like that. And back in 2021, my father passed away and had a big impact on myself and my family, and I had a lot of big feelings that I wanted to process and work out. And after thinking about it for a little bit, I kind of felt that this was the kind of project that was deserving to be my first foray into the graphic novel format. So I pitched a book with my agent, with a proposal that was about exploring the question of what would you talk to your deceased parent about if they came back as a ghost? And that was a format that really gave me the space to explore a lot of complicated, hard feelings that I had pertaining to the passing of my father. And after 3 years, it became a book. And it's a beautiful object that I'm really proud of. And I think it's the best thing that I've ever made.
It is absolutely lovely, and it is very moving. And there are parts of deep humor as well, which I mentioned before. Something that I think it does very well is that it not only depicts what grief looks like, what the grieving process looks like, and how individual it is to different people, but also sort of like becomes part of the grieving process by allowing you to imagine these conversations. Um, how how did working on the book and then sitting with the finished object, did it give you any insights into, your grief process or your family? Like, did your feelings or thoughts change over the course of making the book?
Oh, absolutely. I think when I first started shopping the book around, I didn't really know what I was trying to say just yet. I had the premise, which my agent really believed in, and he felt it was compelling. But I, yeah, I didn't really know what the ultimate takeaways were going to be, which is A little uncommon when you are selling a story, but I kind of wanted to keep the scope manageable, and I just wanted this to be about like the first year of grieving. I didn't really want to make any like big grand sweeping statements about the beginning and end of grief. I kind of think it's a lifelong relationship that you have. You lose someone, and you do feel their absence for the rest of your life. So I didn't want to, make any big claims about uh, what the entire lifespan of grief looks like. So I chose to just make it about the first year, and that I knew I could capture accurately.
It is really interesting to me over the course of a year, just like sort of how much happens early on, after you lose
Mm.
someone, and then how much there is sort of like sitting with feelings, like just from my own experiences of losing people. There's a lot of stuff that you have to do, like in the immediate aftermath, like a lot of like logistic and practical type things. And you do a really good job of depicting what it's like to have to like, plan a huge event that your whole family is going to attend while also managing your grief. Were there parts that you like knew had to be in the story and then later that others that occurred to you later? Like what was your drafting like?
The drafting for the book, I kind of wanted to stay in my lane a little bit, like stick to my strengths. And before this, I did daily comic gag strips, and I was very familiar with the short format way of telling stories, and I kind of wanted to still keep a flavor of that in the book. So all the chapters are very short in length; they're all 2-page spreads, and I chose that for a variety of reasons. One, like I said, I wanted to stick to my strengths, and two, I kind of wanted to capture the the rhythmic passing of the days, which is I think really relevant when it comes to grief, because like someday you'll be at like one stage of grief, and then the next day you'll feel like you'll like regress or backtrack a bit, and you'll be back with feelings that you thought that you moved on from. And I really feel like this like format of short chapters is a really effective way to capture that. And I also wanted to just capture the feeling that I felt reading a Calvin and Hobbes Sunday page collection that I would read as a kid. I used to read those like front to back, and I kind of wanted to make a book that felt like that, but it had a narrative, which is something I feel like I haven't seen very much. And lastly, I like the modular format of this kind of storytelling, because sometimes I would write a series of short chapters that were all kind of sad, and it was like this dense block of just like bummer chapters, and I thought like, I should probably put a funny one between these two chapters. And this format of short chapters really like facilitated that. So when I did my first pass of the script, me and my editor were able to find the right balance and the right rhythm of funny, sad, funny, funny, sad, 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 funny, and it really made things feel manageable. Especially since, like I said, I was a little intimidated by writing a long form story, and this just helped me keep my head wrapped around it.
It feels very naturalistic, because life does to some extent have an arc, but we don't experience it that way. We experience it as like a series of days and like a kind of
Mm.
like gestalt of experiences. And I think especially when you are processing big emotions and a big life transition, big change that you now have to live with, you are very much kind of taking things one day at a time. I'm curious, when you are working on a graphic novel like this, as opposed to like something that you are posting online that has a really short turnaround,
Mhm.
um, do you finish, how do I phrase this? Do you finish one phrase at a time, like all the scripting, all the blocking, the penciling, the inking, or do you switch about from phase to phase in order to keep it fresh? Like, what does your everyday of artistic creation look like?
So my approach to talking to my father's ghost was kind of similar to how I write my comics for social media. It starts as a script. Historically, I just have a file in my notes app, and whenever I have an idea for something, I just like write it out with a line of text for each panel. Um, then for this, I was a little more professional and I used Google Docs. So I classed it up a bit. But after that got approved, I would then do pencils, digital pencils. I would like sketch everything in Photoshop, share that with the Chronicle team. And then after that, that's really when I do like the most editing, is in that digital sketch phase. After that's totally locked, I print out all of those digital sketches. I tape those printouts to nicer paper. I take that to a light box and I ink over everything. And then there aren't really any edits after that, but I'll scan all of that, share it with the Chronicle team so that they can then lay in the text, make a reader copy just so we can see what it looks like. After that gets a thumbs up and we have maybe some edits to the text, like a little bit, I will then watercolor over everything, spend another day scanning everything again, and then share that with the team. And then with some little digital edits, like bumping the values and contrast a bit, the book is then done.
Nice. I really love the watercolors. It really is. It's really gorgeous and expressive. And I think that like something that like the strongest comics do is they sort of look this is obviously meant very complimentary, but it's made to look like easy and simple when it's actually concealing like a lot of effort, like a synchronized swimmer. You know, like all you're seeing is like the stillness on the surface, but underneath there's like the furious kicking and the splashing and stuff. So
Good choice of words. I can relate to that. I think that's the case for a lot of cartooning. So many newspaper comics, web comics, graphic novels are very simple in style. Sometimes for economy's sake, other times just because the simplicity is what keeps it accessible to so many people. And the labor that goes into that work might not necessarily be in the panel, but all of the panels that precede it, if that makes sense. It's most people's like simplified style is a product of lots of trial and error and like rehashing, and Charlie Brown looks good because of all of the drawings of Charlie Brown that preceded it, if that makes sense.
100%. And, you know, I've talked to many comics artists who have sort of talked regretfully about how like their earlier work doesn't look as polished as like their more recent work. And I'm like, well, that's actually a good thing, you know, because if you weren't like if it looked the same as it did 5 years ago, like you wouldn't be growing as an artist or expanding. So like I love it because I think it provides like a sort of roadmap to an artist's progress and their expansion of their talents and things like that. What do you feel like you're going to take from this project into your future ones?
I think that this made me such a more realized writer in my opinion. This was me tackling long form storytelling for the first time, like I said, and I really like this format a lot. I'll always love short format comics and comic strips, but it is a format that can be a little stuffy sometimes. You don't really have room to explore the melancholy or just experiment more with different kinds of like panel layout and storytelling. So when I first started laying everything out, I just felt like I had so much like room to stretch out and grow and show more of myself. I love being a funny guy, but it was nice being able to share my sentimental side with my writing too. So I got a taste of what it's like to have just more space to tell stories, and I really want to do more with that. I'm not sure if it'll be another graphic novel or perhaps something like animated. I'm not sure, but this new form of storytelling was really exciting to me.
Nice. Yeah, I really like the interplay between like the humorous parts and the sad, more vulnerable parts, because obviously like it makes for a dynamic text with like a lot of complex feelings, but they also sort of inform each other in important ways because like the humor isn't just there as set dressing, like humor is like a coping mechanism too, and it's portrayed as one in the book.
Yeah, I think that when you're posting on social media, every comic or post like has to stand on its own, ideally at least. People do post, series and chapters like on like Instagram and Webtoon, and for Webtoon it works, but I think on like websites like Instagram and Twitter and TikTok, it is best to format your stories in a way that someone can see it for the first time and understand what's going on. And sometimes that can be very restrictive. It's harder to build a world or like develop a character with nuance in that environment. But with a graphic novel, that's obviously totally different. And it just gives you so much more to play with. And yeah, like I might be repeating myself, but that was really refreshing.
Yeah, I'm very excited to see what you do next, whether it is another graphic novel or more of your web posted comics. Was it hard to balance doing the sort of like regular posting with writing like a more long-term project like this?
Yes, absolutely. It was really, really hard. Most cartoonists will know that when you're working on a graphic novel, you are probably doing something alongside it too, because it's a huge amount of work and a big undertaking, and sometimes it overlaps with life. Sometimes it overlaps with other projects you've got going, and you often have to juggle a lot if you want the book to get done. My my posting on social media slowed a little bit during this time, but luckily my readers are awesome. They're rooting for me, and they knew that the posting slowed down a bit because I'm trying something new out, and they were nothing but supportive. So that it was nice to get that encouragement. There were also other things I had to do too. I also teach, and juggling that on top of everything was hard, but it definitely informed the work, and the work informed that other work. So it is nice when you have multiple jobs if they can complement each other a little bit.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you again for coming to talk with us and share this book with us. I think it's going to be a favorite with our patrons because it's very sweet and it's very bittersweet, very sad and memorable. And yeah, there's just like a lot of very warm humor there. And it's a lovely family story and a lovely tribute to your dad. So thanks for sharing it with us.
Thanks a lot for having me on the show, Jen. I appreciate the thoughtful questions, and I'm happy to hear that you enjoyed the book.
Oh, thank you. All right, listeners, please check out Talking to My Father's Ghost. It's available now at the time of this recording, and it will be available when you hear this shortly. So please go to your favorite comic bookstore, library, perhaps, wherever you like to go for books. Do you have a place that you like to send people for books or for comics?
For books and comics, I love Desert Island in Brooklyn, New York. They're an amazing indie comic shop. I love The Strand. I just had my book released there, and they did a phenomenal job organizing the event and fulfilling pre-orders for the book. But also, you can get the book directly from Chronicle, too.
Nice. Yes. All very good options. Desert Island is a really great store, so I'm glad you mentioned that one in particular.
Anyone visiting Brooklyn should pop into Desert Island. You will not be disappointed.
No, yeah, it's a can't miss. All right, well, thank you again, Alex, and thank you, listeners. It is now time to close this chapter.
It's time to close this chapter of Turn the Page. Join us for the next episode.